Hello and welcome to another video on the beautiful island of Anglesey, and today I'm going to do another sketch outside. I'm going to do the Menai Bridge, which is a very famous bridge designed by Thomas Telford, and it's very graceful and elegant as well as being strong, so it's become a very popular icon of the landscape here. And I'm going to have a go at it just in a simple biro, which is probably the thing we have most regularly around us in our bags or on desks or wherever we are. It's quite easy to pick one up and just have one in your pocket. So I'm going to show you how to do a sketch with that today, and quite a quick one because we're sitting outside in the cold, but it's really beautiful and the sunshine has just come out. It's perfect. So here you can see the bridge in front of me, and I'm going to angle down so that you can see me working on the paper, and as I normally do, I'm going to post a picture up alongside with a link through the video so that you can find that picture and have it in your shot while you might be trying this out. And there's a group just going by there as well, so we might have a little bit of noise from time to time, but hey, that's life. And I'm working again today with my Bristol board paper, which is a very smooth paper. I'll just angle that down a little bit more so you can see I've got the sun shining directly in my eyes, which is a pretty tricky tricky position to be in. I've come down underneath the bridge, and I'm going to be quite scribbly with this pen. I think a biro really lends itself to sketching because you can be, I make fairly agitated hand movements when I sketch, and I like to sort of feel my way into the shape a bit by making scribbly marks. So we're sitting sort of underneath it, which I think is quite a dramatic angle to be at actually. And whenever you're positioning yourself in front of a big subject matter like this, then you know it's worth having a think about where is going to be going to make the most interesting angle for you, especially if it's something that people are commonly looking at. And you know, I could have chosen to sit in the spots which many of the tourists sit at and look at, but I'd rather come down here underneath and feel a bit more of the drama of it, create a bit more of the drama of it. So since I'm working with the biro, I can't work completely vertically because the biro would actually run out. So if I had it completely like that, sooner or later the biro would just run out, it would just dry out. So you do need to be a little bit more horizontal, and I'm going to draw this big major pillar in there, and it's really in quite a lot of darkness because the sun is coming behind it. Today there's been a massive amount of rain, so not only have we got the sea swirling around down there, the Menai Straits, but also there's been a lot of water going into the sea from the land, so everything looks pretty swollen up at the moment. I've also got, which you'll often find when you're sketching outside, I've got a canopy of trees in front of me. I'm not necessarily going to draw those in today because I'm more interested in this drawing to get the main bridge in. I am working very quickly. It's nice to work outside even at this time of year. It's quite chilly, but it's fine. Just wrap up warmly. I'm sitting on a cushion that's from one of my garden chairs. So it's like a waterproof cushion. It's quite comfy. So there's this big sort of pillar there, and that other side of it that's very obscured by trees actually, so can't see very clearly unless I move around a bit, that side of it, but I can see it's in darkness. So I'm going to use that technique of hatching that down, that side again, because I'm sketching rather than making a longer term drawing. The angle there is quite important. I actually haven't made that quite steep enough, so I'm going to go over that again. As I say, those of you who've been watching some of my other videos, I tend not to use erasers unless it's a positive drawing implement. So I'll just rather choose the technique of going over the line again, but more firmly, with more decision, with more emphasis, so that if you see the other lines, you see I made loads of lines there, but it's beginning to come together. We've got some quite nice shadow shapes there on the water, and the water's really swirling and lively today, so kind of getting a feeling for that. This will actually be really, really lovely just to come down here with paints as well. So of course, as the water is changing continuously, you're only aiming, if you're doing a sketch that is observational like this, you're aiming to kind of just capture a bit of the shape as it goes past without it's changing. Obviously, by the time you've got it on the paper, it's gone, it's off, it's gone downstream. So it's just a suggestion of those shapes. Water line goes up a bit higher on the inside there. You can be suggestive of the stonework there, rather than aiming to draw every single stone. You can make a suggestion of it by doing a small area, and it kind of implies that the whole thing is going to be like that. And again, these are rather, the base of these structures is a little bit obscured, so I'm having to kind of lean around a little bit to see the edge of that. I think it'd be kind of an interesting thing to do this from some different parts actually, and in the summer to come out in the warmer weather to spend a bit longer doing some maybe mixed media studies, and you can sit out a bit longer then. Okay, so we're going to go to the upper part of the bridge there. It's kind of foreshortened because I'm looking up at it, and as I've mentioned before, again in the sketching, I'm aiming to get this kind of the general outline without getting in a tiz about too much detail in a sketch, because the metalwork is actually very complicated, of course. I can see where that suspension is going to connect down there. And this is not an architectural drawing, really. It isn't. It doesn't have to be mathematically accurate, but got some sort of, I've got trees over there. I'm just going to give a suggestion of that. Again, without too much detail. I mean, the sea's going again off there. We've got to get some shadow where it strikes the land, and then out here, it's really, the water's really rushing through, and then we've got a slightly slower paced movement of water in the middle there as well. So you see we're beginning to build it up. Let's go on to this side. Over here, so we've got this, let's make sure I can get that right in the camera. Now, if you are drawing a shape, a building, a man-made shape of any sort, without getting too concerned about things like perspective, if you haven't been formally taught that, it can help you in your mind to think about what is a vertical. And people will often hold up a pencil or their pen, and they'll look at the shape of the angle against that, and that can help you to get the angle right. But I wouldn't do it too much. I kind of caution against doing it too much, and try to, you can actually kind of imagine a vertical in front of you and see, but by all means hold up a pencil to it, and against that, what shape is that? Is that angled like that? Actually, it's a little bit more like that. So that can help you get those angles with some confidence, and then that one is going up like that there as well. Because of course, whatever position you're in, the angle is going to change. So it's not a fixed thing. It does depend where you're sitting. And so when you're a bit more sure of what you're drawing, then you can come back and strengthen up the shape a bit. It's actually got the inside of that archway coming down and lengthening out that way, so that actually becomes darker shape in there that meets that. So it's a nice way to draw that in when you're a bit more sure. And then, as I've also mentioned before, try to get the base of those, of whatever it is you're drawing, try to get the base in, because that will give it a sense of, unless you want to create sort of a sense of flotation and floating materials, which you might, but if you want it to look solid, then try to get the base drawn. And here, of course, it's just a connection point between that and the water, because it will, part of that is going below the waterline, of course, as well. So we come back to this area over here and give that a bit of quick shading there. I've used biro a lot over time, and I don't discount it. Actually, you can get some beautiful effects with it, and it's very scribbly nature, and the fact that you can use it by going in any direction is actually its strength as a media. And you can get, if you're using it, you can work it very lightly, you can work it strongly as well, and they're usually ready to hand as well, and they last for ages, don't they? They last for ages and ages. And even if it starts raining a little bit, you can still use it. It was drizzling when I came out, but it's kind of dried off. But if it does start to drizzle, I can actually keep going for a while. There's a cloud coming in there, actually. Oh, talking about drizzle, here comes the clouds. And this is fairly obscured, but I'm going to try and get this. Excuse me. My hands are a bit chilly, so I'm shivering my way through this. But remember when you're drawing, even if you're cold, whatever, and you're shaky, my hands are a bit shaky and cold, it's actually, look at everything positively. It's going to add an element of quiveringness, which could, generate a sort of sensational feeling on the page, which could be the making of it, So whenever you encounter something in your art that seems like a misfortune, it isn't really. Actually, that can be the very thing that makes it different and interesting. If your lines become all quivery and the shape starts to look like it's vibrating on the page, and actually, of course, you walk across this bridge, you can feel it vibrating. So that's a true sensation of a suspension bridge in a way, and you're probably kind of rendering that by creating lines that looked in that way, if that was what was happening. So it's just to try to view anything, any incidental that happens along the way, an accidental smudge, a blob of water coming off a tree, use it. Make it part of the picture and a positive thing. if you can. So as I say, we've got a lot of complicated connections here with the metalwork, but I'm being just really quite scribbly and bored with them because it is a sketch. I'm just going to add in some sort of key details there. And we've got this vertical wiring coming down, and then we've got these other, I don't know what we call those actually, in engineering. I'll just suggest them, but What I do want to make sure that I do suggest is the shape of the, so I'm going to give that a little bit more hatching there, just get some of those details in. Now that's been about 15 minutes, so I'm not going to continue with that because we'll keep it sketchy. Now just the underneath of that I will just complete, because you can see the underneath of the bridge there as it is in front of me. It actually looks quite dark. I can see that underside, so I'm going to give that some hatching along there. There we go. So there we go. I think that's probably as much as I'm going to do just now, or perhaps I might just do a little bit of that line of the trees, actually suggesting the end of the land there, over there. That's just the tops of the trees. I could probably work into that a little bit more, or even a lot more. But we'll probably call it a day with that now. And actually it's going to start to rain any minute. The sun's gone in, conditions have changed. But do have a go with this, even in December. If you've got a nice snuggly coat, something to sit on, 10-15 minutes outside, walk to somewhere lovely. It really feels fantastic just to be outside for that time, if you can take time out. Christmas is coming. Merry Christmas everybody, Nadolig Llawen, as we say up here. Wishing you well. Have a go. Do please like and share my videos around, especially if you know somebody who loves art, would love to get going, needs a little bit of encouragement, but maybe they can't get out to classes for all sorts of reasons. This is really one of the reasons why this channel is set up. Thanks so much. Look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks for watching.